Picture this moment with me. You've just crushed an intense workout at the gym. Your muscles are burning, sweat is dripping down your face, and you feel that satisfying exhaustion that comes from pushing your body to its limits. You walk into your kitchen, open the refrigerator door, and there it sits. A perfectly grilled chicken breast you meal prepped earlier this week, or maybe a cold protein shake waiting on the shelf. Your stomach growls with hunger. Your body is screaming for nutrients. But then, out of nowhere, doubt creeps into your mind like an unwelcome guest. What if eating this protein right now completely destroys everything you just worked so hard to achieve? What if consuming this meal shuts down all the fat-burning processes happening inside your body at this very moment? What if it stops the cellular cleanup and repair mechanisms that you've been trying so desperately to activate through fasting and discipline? This internal battle happens to thousands of people every single day, and it's absolutely exhausting. You've probably been fasting for hours already, maybe even skipping breakfast and pushing through hunger pangs because someone told you that's what you need to do for longevity and health. Now, someone else confidently declares that the second you put protein into your mouth, everything changes instantly. Your insulin levels will spike dramatically, fat burning will come to a screeching halt, and all those precious autophagy benefits everyone talks about on social media will vanish into thin air like they never existed. It's incredibly frustrating when you're genuinely trying to do everything right, but the rules keep changing every single week, and everyone seems to have a completely different opinion about what actually works. One expert says eat more protein, another says protein will ruin your fasting benefits, and you're stuck in the middle feeling confused and paralyzed by information overload. For years, possibly even decades, we've been living under the shadow of a very specific and rigid belief system about how human metabolism actually functions. We were taught by fitness gurus, diet coaches, and even some scientists that metabolism operates exactly like a simple light switch mounted on your bedroom wall. It's either completely off or completely on. There's absolutely no in-between state, no gray area, no middle ground whatsoever in this binary system. When that metabolic switch is in the off position, you're supposedly in pure fasting mode. Your body enters this magical state where it cleanses itself from the inside out, repairs damaged cells that have accumulated over time, burns through stored fat for energy, and activates all those longevity pathways that promise to keep you young and healthy for decades to come. But the very second you flip that switch back on by eating something, especially protein, everything reverses course immediately and dramatically. According to this old framework, your body instantly stops all cleaning processes, halts fat burning completely, and shifts entirely into growth and storage mode instead. We were told in absolutely no uncertain terms that you simply cannot have both of these processes happening simultaneously inside your body. It's supposed to be biologically impossible, a fundamental law of human physiology that cannot be broken under any circumstances. You have to choose one pathway or the other, growth or cleanup, building or breaking down. There's no way to have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. But what if I told you something that might completely change how you think about nutrition, fasting, and muscle building? What if this entire framework, this black and white way of thinking about human metabolism, was fundamentally incomplete and missing crucial pieces of the puzzle? What if the human body doesn't actually work in such rigid binary terms at all? What if you could actually activate growth pathways and build muscle tissue without completely shutting off the cellular cleanup systems that keep you healthy, young, and protected from disease? A groundbreaking study that was just published in the prestigious scientific journal Cell Reports has thrown a massive wrench into everything we thought we knew about protein, autophagy, and how these systems interact inside the human body. This research suggests our understanding has been missing some absolutely critical pieces of information that change the entire game. The study demonstrates something that seems almost too good to be true, something that sounds like wishful thinking or pseudoscience at first. You can actually consume a large amount of protein in a single sitting, and we're talking about up to 100 grams in a single meal, without shutting down your body's internal cleaning and repair systems the way everyone predicted it would. This discovery completely reshapes how we need to think about diet design, reducing stubborn belly fat that refuses to go away, and protecting precious muscle tissue as we get older and face age-related muscle loss. To really grasp why this finding is so revolutionary and why it matters so much for your daily life, we need to take a step back and understand the old logic that's been governing our decisions and creating fear around food for so long. The traditional belief system that dominated nutrition science worked like this in simple terms. Autophagy, which literally translates to self-eating when you break down the Greek roots of the word, is your body's incredibly sophisticated breakdown and recycling process that happens at a cellular level. When your body finds itself running low on nutrients and needs to become resourceful with what it has available, your body doesn't just sit there helplessly waiting to starve. Instead, it goes searching through your cells like an extremely thorough cleanup crew looking for absolutely anything that can be salvaged and repurposed. It actively hunts down waste materials floating around, damaged proteins that are no longer functioning properly and just taking up space, old cells that have outlived their usefulness and are ready to be retired, and broken organelles that are cluttering up the cellular machinery and making everything less efficient. Then your body recycles all of this material for survival, systematically breaking it down into usable components that can be repurposed for energy or building blocks. This entire intricate process gets triggered when something called mTOR, which stands for Mechanistic Target of Rapamycin, goes down to low levels. Think of mTOR as your body's master growth switch, the central control system that decides whether you're in building mode or breaking down mode. When mTOR activity is low, your body shifts its focus entirely towards cleanup, repair, and maintenance operations. On the complete flip side of this metabolic equation, when you eat protein, especially protein that's rich in an amino acid called leucine, mTOR levels shoot up rapidly and powerfully. Its primary job in this activated state is to build muscle tissue, repair damaged structures, and promote growth throughout your body. Since mTOR has been scientifically shown through countless studies to suppress autophagy when it's elevated to high levels, the conclusion seemed absolutely obvious and ironclad to researchers and diet experts. Protein must completely kill autophagy. There's simply no way around this fundamental biological reality. It's just basic biology operating according to fixed rules. If you want cellular cleanup and longevity benefits, you absolutely have to avoid protein during certain windows. If you want muscle growth and recovery, you have to accept that cellular cleanup stops entirely. This created an absolutely terrible dilemma for anyone trying to simultaneously lose stubborn fat, build lean muscle, and support longevity and health span at the same time. But the latest research reveals something that fundamentally challenges this entire paradigm and turns conventional wisdom completely upside down. The researchers didn't just work with cells growing in petri dishes in a laboratory or mice running around in cages under controlled conditions. They examined real human beings, actual people consuming vastly different amounts of protein after completing exercise sessions. They compared a normal 25-gram serving, which is roughly what you might find in a typical chicken breast or standard protein shake, to an extremely large 100-gram serving consumed in a single meal. Now, traditional fitness advice has been telling us for literally decades that your body can only use around 30 grams of protein at one time for muscle building. Anything beyond that magical threshold number would simply be wasted, converted into glucose sugar through a metabolic process called gluconeogenesis, or at best burned for energy instead of being used for muscle building purposes. We were told repeatedly that the muscle-building cup has a very limited capacity and it overflows after that 30-gram point. Everything extra just spills out uselessly and goes to waste, contributing nothing to your gains. But the results of this comprehensive study were absolutely shocking and completely unexpected, even to the researchers conducting it. The group that consumed 100 grams of protein didn't just build muscle at the same rate as the low-protein group and then stop. They continued building it for hours and hours longer than anyone predicted. There wasn't some hard upper limit or ceiling where the body suddenly stopped benefiting and started treating protein as waste. Your body doesn't just dump the excess protein or treat it like garbage that needs to be disposed of. It keeps using it productively and efficiently for extended periods of time, incorporating it into muscle tissue and repair processes. When you actually stop and think about this through the lens of human evolution and how our ancestors lived, it suddenly makes perfect sense and seems almost obvious. Our ancient ancestors living tens of thousands of years ago didn't have meal prep containers stacked neatly in refrigerators with perfectly portioned meals. They didn't have protein shakes waiting for them every 3 hours or alarm clocks reminding them when to eat. They didn't have the luxury of eating small, frequent, perfectly timed meals throughout the day like modern fitness culture recommends. If a tribe successfully hunted down a massive animal like a buffalo, deer, or wild boar, they absolutely feasted without restraint. They might consume several pounds of meat in one extended sitting because they had no way to preserve it for later. No refrigeration, no freezer, no food safety technology. Then they would inevitably go long periods, sometimes multiple days, without any food at all until the next successful hunt came along. If the human body truly wasted everything above 30 grams of protein and couldn't effectively utilize large protein doses the way we've been told, our species would never have survived the incredibly harsh conditions of our evolutionary past. We were specifically designed and optimized through millions of years of natural selection to handle feast and fast cycles with remarkable efficiency. When the scientists carefully measured the molecular markers and signals of autophagy in these study participants using advanced technology, the discovery was absolutely stunning. Consuming 100 grams of protein did not shut down the autophagy signaling pathways that everyone predicted it would obliterate. The cellular cleanup systems remained active and functional. So how is that even remotely possible? How can you eat a massive protein meal and still maintain cellular cleanup systems running in the background? The answer lies hidden in how intelligently and precisely your body tracks and responds to different nutrients with completely separate signaling systems. Your body doesn't treat every food source as if it's exactly the same thing. We often lump all food into one generic category called calories, as if a calorie is just a calorie regardless of source. But your body separates protein and carbohydrates into completely different signaling pathways with different chemical messages and drastically different metabolic effects. Carbohydrates send the loudest, most overwhelming signal in your entire metabolic system. When you eat sugar or starchy foods like bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes, blood glucose rises sharply and rapidly within minutes. In response to this dramatic glucose surge, the hormone insulin floods into your bloodstream in massive quantities. Insulin is the master command system that controls almost everything related to energy storage and usage. It sends a powerful broadcast message to nearly every single cell in your body simultaneously, like a loudspeaker announcement echoing through every room. The message is crystal clear and absolutely unmistakable to every cell. Energy is abundantly available right now in the bloodstream. Stop whatever cleaning and repair processes you're currently doing immediately. Start storing this incoming energy as fat right away. That single hormonal response acts like a global shutdown switch for autophagy, halting the internal cleanup process across your entire body and pushing everything aggressively towards storage mode and growth. But protein, however, sends a completely different type of message that works in a much more targeted way. Protein speaks quietly and specifically to targeted areas of the body that need it most. Instead of blasting the entire system with a loudspeaker announcement that reaches everywhere, it activates highly specific nutrient sensors, especially one called cestrin-2, which has the specialized job of detecting amino acids circulating in the bloodstream. Yes, protein can slightly raise insulin levels when you consume it, but not even remotely close to the overwhelming insulin surge that gets triggered by carbohydrates. We're talking about a gentle rise versus a massive shout. And without that huge insulin surge flooding through your entire system like a tidal wave, the signal your body receives isn't store energy everywhere in every cell immediately. Instead, it becomes a much more targeted and intelligent instruction. Repair the specific tissues that need it most, rebuild the particular structures that are damaged, restore what's been broken down through training or daily wear and tear. This is where something called the muscle sponge effect comes into play, which was one of the absolute key mechanisms revealed in this groundbreaking study that changes everything. When you're in a fasted state or when you've just finished a hard training session that broke down muscle fibers, your muscles are absolutely starved for repair material. They're chemically hungry at a cellular level, desperately seeking the amino acids they need to rebuild damaged fibers and come back stronger. So when you consume a large dose of protein after training or fasting, your muscles behave exactly like a completely dry sponge that's been dropped into a bucket of water. They rapidly absorb amino acids, pulling them straight out of the bloodstream at an incredibly fast rate to rebuild tissue as quickly as possible. Because your muscles are soaking up these nutrients so aggressively and efficiently like a vacuum, the rest of your body never experiences a dramatic nutrient overflow or surplus floating around. The levels of amino acids circulating in places like your liver and fat tissue stay relatively low and manageable. This creates a fascinating biological situation where while your muscles are actively building and repairing themselves, your liver and fat cells can still behave as if nutrients are scarce and continue maintaining their cleanup processes. You've essentially created a situation where one part of your body is in growth and recovery mode, while another part continues cleanup and autophagy. You've divided your metabolism into two different operating systems running simultaneously in different tissues, which was supposed to be impossible according to the old model. But there's one critical twist to this story, and this is where most people fail to understand the complete picture and end up making costly mistakes. This fascinating ability to simultaneously build muscle and maintain autophagy has mainly been observed and documented in lean, metabolically healthy individuals with low body fat percentages. When scientists looked at people who were overweight or obese with significant excess body fat, the situation changes dramatically and becomes much more complicated and challenging. The biological signals that normally trigger autophagy were actually elevated in these individuals carrying excess weight. On paper, looking at gene expression and molecular markers, it looked like their bodies were literally shouting for cleanup louder than lean individuals. But when scientists measured autophagic flux, which shows whether cleanup is actually happening and completing its full cycle, the process was barely moving forward at all. The command to clean was being sent loud and clear, but the machinery wasn't responding properly. This happens because obesity creates a constant internal stress and chronic low-grade inflammation that pervades every system. Visceral fat floods your entire body with inflammatory chemicals that damage mitochondria and disrupt cellular communication pathways, clogging up the very repair mechanisms supposed to fix the damage. If you're currently overweight or obese, your first mission is not obsessing over whether a small amount of protein ruins autophagy. Your main priority is removing the visceral fat that is literally suffocating your cellular repair systems and blocking them from functioning. And here's the surprising truth. The solution is not cutting protein lower, it's actually increasing it significantly. Protein has an incredibly powerful thermic effect, meaning your body has to burn a substantial chunk of calories just to digest and process it. Roughly 30% of the calories contained in protein are automatically spent during digestion and metabolic processing.